Yes, and here's the thing: the hands and the feet, right, represent the strength of the rest of the line, right? So what I try to tell people, because even though it's more complicated, that I try to say, look, from your belly button and around your back, that's one chunk of your leg. Given it's not, but this is an easier way to think of it. This is one chunk. This is one chunk. Your pec and your upper back. This is one chunk of arm. And I was just saw that this was on the local news. They were talking about how hand grip, right, it gives us an idea of how susceptible you are to Alzheimer's and dementia. And that's interesting because, again, if the hand is hyper connected to the skull and up into the tightness of this, so we're getting there with the science, because a lot of people don't understand that up until 1998, 99, they took all this fascia tissue and they just threw it out in anatomy. In anatomy books, there was nothing about fascia tissue. So you can imagine all the stuff we learned about the human body up until 1998, 99, they're just throwing this tissue away. They didn't think there was a point to it.
Which that's sort of the next question I think that begs to be answered is, for those who may not know, can you just explain what you mean when you're talking about fascia tissue?
So let's see. Let's do it real quick. So one way to explain it would be, so you can see some images here. When you eat steak and there's that film on it, that's fascia, that little thin film. But what you have to understand about fascia is it is everywhere. So it's like soup stock is a good way to explain it. When you make soup, right? The soup stock is all around the beef, the vegetables. But then as you cook it, it's inside the vegetables, right? So the fascia is around the organs. It's through the organs. It's around the muscles. It's around every filament of muscle. It's around, your body is mostly fascia tissue. So, and you can see some pictures here of how it's interconnecting, and it looks web-like we said. And here's some examples of them showing kind of how it has big sheaths and interconnects, but it's in all these filaments. All this white stuff is fascia that they're showing here. So it's around the muscle belly. So you have bigger pieces, you have much smaller pieces. It's in the organs. Here's a live image of it and how much of it. It's very sticky, but we don't want it to be sticky, because when it's sticky, that's a knot, that's pain, possibly. That's an area you can't feel. We want this stuff to be pliable. We want it to be moving kinetic energy, blood water, allowing blood water, electricity, and oxygen to move through. Because when you have a pinched nerve, well, what is it? It's a bunch of fascia that's tightened up around that area, and now the nerve is closed off. When you have a knotted muscle, same thing. If there's a knot in this muscle, it's because the fascia within it has binded up, because it's trying to protect the body in some fashion, or it's, reacting to a heavy stimulus of being hit, per se. So, and maybe this, so here, superficial fascia, it's just lies beneath the dermis, consists of loose connective tissue, adipose. Yeah, it's in everything. So, and it's around.
Yeah, but what is the function of it?
Well, the function of it is to keep you glued together, because without it, your organs would just be fumbling around in your body. Your muscles wouldn't have. So here's what we know about fascia as well. Is fascia has 5 to 6 times more neurons than muscle tissue. And fascia is a third brain, or I would just say it's an extension of the brain. So you're a giant brain, because it's coming right out of the brain. And they're saying it's a third brain. So it's a third hemisphere, but it's not a hemisphere, right? And so its function is to control your mechanics. It's to control the knotting of the body, like I said. So it'll knot up the tendon, muscle, ligament structure, because, again, it's trying to protect the bones, or maybe it incurs a heavy hit from being punched or something. It's trying to keep your organs in place, because they have a place they're supposed to be. It's controlling blood, water, electricity, and oxygen to every tissue throughout the body, because as it tightens up, it's not only that you lose kinetic energy into that area, which is electricity, but as it binds up, if it binds up a muscle, like a trigger point, now we're not getting blood, water, electricity, or oxygen into that muscle. And then pain sometimes incurs, or, eventually the pain goes away. Why does pain go away if you have a knot? Because it's gotten so tight that the nerves are dead, because it chokes it so hard. So it's organizing with your brain, or again, I would say an extension of your brain. It's organizing you know, the mechanics. And again, I think mechanics, I say that because you think of like a car mechanic, how he's keeping track of everything in your car, what's running, where things should be. It's doing the same thing, except you're just organic tissue, and there's a lot to keep track of. So and another thing is fascia. So the brain takes a picture of the fascia every 1.6 seconds. So whatever shape you're in, it's always taking pictures, and then it collects them at night, and that's why it decides what to knot up and do. So depending on what shapes you made during the day, what kind of stress you put on the body exercise wise, that's where it's controlling how it's knotting up and stuff. So this is why you slowly get tighter over time, right? Because let's say you're not working out, you're sitting for 10 years, and every night your body's collecting all these pictures of what shape you are, and ultimately it's slowly knotting you up and slowly closing you in on your spine, in a sense.